Welcome to Red Recaps. Today we're going to have a look at an exciting 1997 thriller and horror film, Anaconda. Let's get started. A poacher tries to avoid being caught by a mysterious thing by hiding in his boat as the creature seeks to penetrate the boat and reach the poacher. The poacher attempts to get aid by phoning his cell phone, but is unable to do so since he has been banned from using it. Later on, he climbs to the top of the boat, where he shoots himself in the head to end his life before the beast can kill him. During this time, filmmaker Terry Flores and members of her crew were filming a documentary on the Amazon River about an extinct indigenous people known as the Shiras Hamas. Flores was a childhood friend of Flores, and Denise Kahlberg, the production manager, was dating Denise's boyfriend. Denise's boyfriend was also the sound engineer. The narrator, Gary Dixon, is helped by Warren Westridge, anthropological professor Stephen Kale, boat captain Maddie, and counter-stranded snake hunter Paul Cerrone from Paraguay. They all became involved in a discourse about why each of them came to the jungle. Gary Dixon is from the United States. Cerrone is the only member of the team that is confident in his ability to locate the Shiras Hamas, even though the other members of the crew avoid his presence, and Kale has multiple disagreements with him. Soon they arrived at a location in Shirashama, known as a snake totem, where people worship huge snakes such as anacondas and see them as gods and protectors. Gary and Denise were preoccupied when a wild boar began to rush after them as they were making out in the forest. However, Cerrone was able to shoot the animal and save them. They concluded that the boar would be better put to use as a meal for the week. After that, while Kale was attempting to free the boat's propeller from a rope that was tangled around it under the river, he was stung in the throat by a wasp, which is a deadly and poisonous flying insect that was inside his scuba regulator. The sting caused his throat to swell up, which knocked him out unconscious. After performing an emergency operation to save Kale's life, Cerrone takes control of the boat and forces the crew to assist him in achieving his actual objective, which is tracking down and killing a big, record-breaking green anaconda. When they reached the river, Cerrone advised that they cross it. However, the route leading from the river to the next settlement was obstructed by trees. The explosives that Cerrone had carried earlier were intended to be used in his plan to destroy the woods. Gary and Cerrone take turns diving into the river so that the explosives may be placed on the correct rails, allowing them to go to the next settlement. Almost immediately after they cleared the forest, newborn snakes emerged from a variety of directions. Because their barrels of gasoline had already leaked earlier, Cerrone forced them to halt their boat midway, and then took Matteo to another deserted boat, where he pretended to them that the deserted boat was full of fuel. An old image published in a newspaper suggests that Matteo Cerrone and the anonymous poacher were working together as part of a hunting squad to capture various creatures, including snakes. Later on, Matteo becomes disoriented and is the first person to be murdered by the anaconda. It wraps itself around him and then breaks his neck next to the boat where the poacher had been killed. While the others look for him, Cerrone shoots and kills a monkey from a nearby tree to use as bait for the anaconda. Cerrone has Gary on his side thanks to his manipulation, and he promises everyone that if they assist him in capturing the snake, he will assist them in escaping the area safely later that night. The crew of the boat is attacked by a very large anaconda that was captured on Cerrone's hook. When Cerrone makes an effort to seize the snake while it is still alive, the snake coils around Gary and starts to crush him. Terry makes an effort to rescue Gary by shooting the anaconda. However, Cerrone knocks the pistol out of Terry's hands, which ultimately results in Gary being killed and consumed by the snake. While Denise is grieving the loss of her lover, the others have misled, enticed, and defeated Cerrone, and they have tied him up as a kind of punishment. They discovered that everything that occurred had been arranged and set up by Cerrone and his fellow snake hunters, all of whom were dead by the time they made the discovery. The next day, the boat manages to get itself trapped near a waterfall, And to free it, Terry, Danny, and Westridge had to go into the water and use a winch. Denise approaches Cerrone, and in retaliation for the killing of Gary, she tries to kill Cerrone. However, Cerrone can kill Denise by choking her to death with his legs, and then he throws her body into the river. When the anaconda comes back, Westridge distracts it for a while, giving Terry and Danny enough time to go back to the boat. Because Westridge was being pursued by the anaconda, he had no choice but to take refuge under the rocks. While Westridge is being coiled by the anaconda, Cerrone is engaged in combat with Danny and Terry below the waterfall. Just as the anaconda is about to murder Westridge, the tree that is supporting the anaconda knocks the party into the water, which in turn awakens Cale. Terry then manages to kill the snake by shooting it in the head after it has attacked Danny and coiled itself around him. In enraged, Cerrone attacks Terry, but Cale manages to subdue him with a tranquilizer shot before he passes out for a second time. Danny ruggedly strikes Cerrone in the face, which causes him to fall into the river. After driving into the facility, Danny and Terry went inside to obtain some fuel. Despite this, Terry and Danny are quickly taken captive by Cerrone as he comes up to them. He then pours a bucket of blood from the monkey on them and uses them as bait to catch a second anaconda that is far bigger than the first. As soon as it makes its appearance, the snake immediately starts to wrap itself around Terry and Danny, gradually suffocating both of them. Cerrone had successfully trapped all of them in a net, but the snake managed to escape. When Cerrone attempts to escape, he climbs a ladder. However, the anaconda follows him up the ladder, and when the animal ultimately uncoils itself, it sends the ladder crashing down. Danny raises his net over Cerrone, which allows the anaconda to wrap itself around Cerrone and suffocate him to death. Cerrone tries to escape, but Danny raises his net over him. Terry and Danny watch as the anaconda consumes the body whole that was left by Cerrone when they released their ties. Terry runs for cover in a building, where she discovers a nest filled with baby anacondas. The snake shows up, and after it has regurgitated Cerrone's still writhing carcass, which seems to wink at Terry, it follows her up a smokestack and kills her. To capture the anaconda, Danny uses a pickaxe to pin its tail to the ground, and then he starts a fire underneath the smoke shack. The subsequent explosion causes the flaming anaconda to be thrown from the structure and land in the sea. While Terry and Danny are resting and recovering on the adjacent pier, the anaconda makes one last appearance. Danny puts an end to the snake's suffering by severing its head off with an axe splitter. After that, Terry and Danny get back together with Cale, who had been resurrected while they were drifting down the river on the boat. These three people make up the group. They began recording their documentary as soon as they discovered the people of Shirashama, for whom they had been seeking, and came to the conclusion that Cerrone was correct. And that's the end of the recap. Believe it or not, Anaconda is a series. The first movie, released April 11th, 1997, had a budget of $45 million. And at the box office, it made $136.8 million. Anaconda currently has a rating of 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. Well, have you enjoyed the movie? Leave a comment down below and let us know what you think about the movie. If you liked this movie, you can watch it by clicking on the links down below. And also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more of our videos. Thanks for watching Red Recaps. See you in the next video.